Bazar Sports Radio. Will Bazarski alongside Zach Dolans and Matt Hand. We are back for another week of sports. Some big news just broke. Zach, what do we have?
Yeah, so as of a couple minutes ago, there are 4 new members of the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Those guys are Chipper Jones, Vladimir Guerrero, Jim Thome, and Trevor Hoffman. This is actually the 4th time ever that they've elected 4 players to the Hall of Fame in 1 year. If you look at these guys, I think all of them were automatic. Chipper Jones, 8-time All-Star, played all of the seasons for the Braves. He's 3rd all-time in home runs by a switch hitter. Guerrero, 9-time All-Star, has the 6th highest batting average for someone with at least 400 career home runs. Jim Thome, 8th at all-time in home runs, and he has the most walk-off home runs in MLB history, which is a really cool stat to have. It's at 13 walk-off homers. And lastly, Trevor Hoffman, just the 6th reliever ever to be elected to Cooperstown. So it's a pretty big deal.
I can tell you this. I enjoyed playing with them on MVP Baseball.
Oh, yeah. These were the guys.
05, back in the day. I'm sure my brother remembers that. And with that, we're going to move on to some of the stuff that happened this past weekend. Matt, what are we starting with?
All right, so we're starting off with the NFC AFC Championship games. I got a question for you, too. Did the Patriots win, or did Jacksonville blow it?
Jacksonville did not blow it for one reason. Tom Brady in the second half is unstoppable. Stats don't lie. He's exceptional. You look back at when they played Seattle back in the Super Bowl, that last defensive play, he led him back there. And then you had it last year against Atlanta in the fourth quarter, the second half of the Super Bowl in Houston. Tom Brady is unstoppable in the second half. Bortles played a pretty good game, I'm not going to lie. But when you're playing Tom Brady in the second half at Gillette Stadium, there's no chance.
I agree. Obviously, Patriots were the favorite here, but it is, you can make the argument that Jacksonville blew it because they had a 10-point lead and because they were the number 1 ranked defense, and everyone expected when their offense gets the lead that their defense can hold that lead. That's why they made it as far as they have. Obviously, I know, like you said, Tom Brady, one of the best of all time. That's what he does best, is coming back in the fourth quarter, but I would definitely think that the Jacksonville blew it a little bit, and they probably could have came away with that game.
I just don't think they're stopping Brady. I mean, sure, they stopped in the first half, but in reality, it's Tom Brady. I don't think Jacksonville blew it. I don't think they had a chance. I know they were ahead 20-10 going into the half, but the Patriots are a different ball team in the second half. All Patriots.
All right. And then moving on to the NFC. Did the Eagles win it, or did the Vikings lose it?
The Vikings blew this one. I thought that they were a better team. I thought that their defense was going to be like a brick wall, and Nick Foles just went right through them.
I'm going to agree with that. The Vikings did blow this one. They got lucky against the Saints with your prayer that was caught. They've been working on that school chant all week. They need to tone that down, maybe focus on the football.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the Vikings did not play very well. They just didn't look like they were a NFC contender.
Yeah. It's actually funny about this. So obviously we all know Karl Anthony Towns, star center. He's an all-star now for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's actually born and raised in New Jersey, big-time Eagles fan. And he is a very public supporter of the team. And he was posting all over Twitter how happy he is for the Eagles. And he had a lot of backlash from a lot of fans in Minnesota, but he doesn't care. He's staying loyal to his team.
And with that, I want to go on to look at next season. The Vikings in 2018, will they be the same team?
No, I mean, I think that they will be just as good. I don't really think they're going to lose any players, but we're looking at their schedule for next year, and I don't think that this is a schedule that's so tough. I don't see how they're going to be able to return to the playoffs.
It's not even a schedule. This was their year to do it. One, Aaron Rodgers and Carson Wentz return, so no chance. You have the year 2 of Jared Goff and McVay out in LA. You got Jimmy G back in San Francisco for a full season with Shanahan. I don't think they may make the playoffs, but with these guys coming back and this year that we've had as the NFL, just very out of the ordinary, so many star players going down. You look at the same thing, Jacksonville, they would be an 8-8 team right now if Deshaun Watson didn't go down and Andrew Luck didn't go down, because they swept both of those teams.
This was their year too.
Right, this was also their year, but the Patriots, of course, stopped it.
And that is, of course, I mean, you never know. Jaguars just get one good quarterback. You saw it happen in Minnesota this year. Case Keenum came out of nowhere. He was much better than anyone thought he would. So It's little things like that can make the difference.
And they have 3 quarterbacks. And with that, we have a question from Martin from Houston.
Martin from Houston says, what's going to happen to Case Keenum?
Well, first off, we got to look at the 2 other quarterbacks on the roster as well. Who are they going to pick? Keenum, Bradford, or Bridgewater?
Teddy Bridgewater.
You think Bridgewater?
I think Bridgewater.
I agree. I could see Bridgewater, but the way Case Keenum played this year, I know Pat Shurmur is going to New York. That's who I could see going to New York with him.
I think if the Vikings don't sign Case Keenum, it'd be something very similar to the Boston Celtics getting rid of Isaiah Thomas. This is the guy that has carried them this season. He was their face of the franchise. He took them to the NFC Championship. That was not expected from the Vikings. Then you have Teddy Bridgewater, who played like 1 snap the entire season. I'd feel like if you don't re-sign Case Keenum, it's almost kind of like betrayal.
I think you have to at least keep 2 of them. I think Keenum and Bridgewater are the most likely. However, Pat Shurmur as the head coach of the Giants now, I could see Keenum moving on to go play for them and take over when Eli Manning, or compete with Eli Manning.
Can I argue with you on this?
Go for it.
I want to say I think that's wrong. I think Case Keenum's finally found the system that he's worked in. He's
historically. Pat Shurmur is in New York.
Offensive coordinator. And
Pat Shurmur is in New York.
Yeah, I know, but he finally has Adam Thielen. He has this whole offensive line that's so good now with Minnesota. He's never been with a good team, a good system that's worked for him until now. This is the first time in his career.
But the system's going to New York,
and the Giants have a better receiving core.
Right, exactly. You got Odell. That's it.
You have Evan Ingram. You have Sterling Shepard. You have
There's 2 tight ends. It's just tight ends and 1 wide receiver.
Yes, but you have to look at it's the same thing with Tom Brady. You take away Bill Belichick, and Tom Brady's not the same player he is. Yes, he has the intelligence. He has the work ethic. But he's not the same player with Belichick's genius behind the scenes.
Okay, but why would Keenum want to compete for a spot with Eli Manning when he has an open spot as a starting position as a Minnesota Viking?
That we don't know. That's the big question. Is he going to have that starting spot with Shurmur gone?
You can't take Eli Manning out of the starting spot. That's Eli Manning.
Of course, but you can't look at it like that. You have to look at it. Where does he excel? He excels in Shurmur's system.
Also, Eli Manning's 37 years old.
Right.
How much time does he really have left?
Maybe got a year. Doesn't matter if he has a year. It's the fact that he has a starting spot wide open for him on the Minnesota Vikings. Case Keenum has spent a lot of his time in the NFL as a backup. He's got to stay in Minnesota, I think. He wants to stay. He's got to
of course he wants to stay because he believes
like I said, he'd feel betrayed if he was anywhere else.
Right.
And it also comes down to how much money are the Giants going to offer him? How much money are the Minnesota Vikings going to offer him?
Well, that's why when some people expect Eli Manning to go to Jacksonville with Tom Coughlin and take over for Blake Bortles. That's what rumors have been circling. And in that case, Keenum would then go to the Giants to play for Shurmur. That's a scenario that you could possibly see. However, I don't think the GM of the Giants is going to do that to Eli Manning of what happened last season with Ben McAdoo. And with that, we're going to talk more about quarterbacks here. If this is just hypothetically, Zach, this is to you and I'll answer. If you were a new GM in the NFL right now, and you could choose one quarterback, you have a list, you can choose 3 quarterbacks to quarterback your franchise, build a franchise around it. Mm-hmm. Tell me your top 3.
I think the easy number one, I don't even think this is biased, even though I'm a Packers fan. Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback. He's the most skilled quarterback easily in the league. And people make the argument when you come up with a question like this is that you want young, raw talent that you could build around. He's going to work. He's going to get better. Aaron Rodgers, at 34 years old, still has 5 or 6 years left in him. You can still build a very good franchise. You can build a dynasty in 5 to 6 years. So I think Aaron Rodgers is definitely my guy to build around. What do you think?
Okay, so my guy to build around, I like Aaron Rodgers. It's a great pick. The 2 guys, actually there's 3 that I really like. Carson Wentz, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Andrew Luck. Now, here's the thing. We talked a little bit about this. I think Andrew Luck is an exceptional player. Mm-hmm. I think he's a great quarterback to build around. Sure, if you're going to pick between Garoppolo and Luck, sure, you can say Luck has a shoulder injury. But here's the difference. With the team that Andrew Luck had, he went 11-5, 11-5, and 11-5. That's phenomenal. He is a true player, and basically that's the same thing why Sam Darnold is so high. Him and Sam Darnold kind of look alike.
It's just the facial features.
It's the face. But I think my number one would definitely be Right, as of now, if we had to choose right now, Carson Wentz. But I do like Andrew Luck as a best second.
See, the problem with Andrew Luck is that he's injury prone. I've had.
Well, you put a line around him. He doesn't really have an offensive line.
I guess, but you still get sacked one time. You never know with him. I like your Jimmy G pick because you know what his record is as a starting quarterback in the NFL? He's 7-0. The guy hasn't lost a game as a starting quarterback in the NFL. That's phenomenal. And he's played 5 of those games on the San Francisco 49ers, who were not a good team last year.
Shanahan he's an icon. I mean, he is an exceptional offensive coordinator / head coach now.
Yeah.
I mean, look what he did to Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan's a good quarterback. I don't think he's an A+ quarterback, how people think. Yes, he got MVP last season, but he got MVP under Kyle Shanahan's system. Look what happened when he left. Look at him when they played the Eagles. He looked terrible.
Yeah,
terrible in the second half.
Yeah, this season he did not look good. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I love Matt Ryan. Did not look that good this season.
You're Matt Ryan, that's why.
Yeah. But he wasn't hit. He was just not as accurate as he was last year. Just wasn't as good as he was last year.
And like I said, it goes back to the system. It's all about the system you're in. You put anyone in Bill Belichick's system in the league right now, I'm sure they would excel. That'd be a few exceptions. Any starting quarterback in the league you put in his system, I think they would do fairly well. With that, we're going to go to some of the 2017 redraft. The top 5 picks we had were the Browns, Myles Garrett, 2 Bears, Mitchell Trubisky, 49ers took Solomon Thomas, 4 the Jaguars took Leonard Fournette, and at 5 the Titans took Corey Davis. Let's go to a little redraft here.
All right, well, I'd first like to point out that the 2nd and 3rd pick, the Bears number 2, 49ers number 3, that was a trade that happened right before the draft. The 49ers originally had the 2nd pick and the Bears originally had the 3rd, but they did a trade real quick, so they switched those picks, and the Bears also gave up 2 other picks in that draft and a future draft pick, which I think if they were to go through the draft again, I think that trade happens 10 out of 10 times because when the Bears moved up, they drafted Trubisky, who very easily could have been drafted by the 49ers in that spot, knowing that they needed a QB at the beginning of the season. And Trubisky is one of the best things that's happened to the Bears recently.
And if we were to say that, if we didn't know they were going to get if they didn't know they were getting Jimmy Garoppolo in his exceptional playing that he did the last couple of weeks, I think the 49ers keep that spot and they take Trubisky. I think Watson goes number 1 to the Browns. Like he should have when the Texans traded up for him. He should have been there. Trubisky goes to the 49ers. And then you either see the Bears take Myles Garrett and Patrick Mahomes, depending on what they're feeling, because then they could have gotten out and gone and got Jimmy G. That could have been the hypothetical there. Then he was Leonard Fournette again. I think he would have been at Jacksonville. 5, the Titans would have gotten Marshawn Lattimore, quarterback. He had an exceptional year, Pro Bowl. I think that would have been the top 5. Yeah. Watson, Trubisky, Garrett, Fournette, Lattimore.
Yeah, I mean, there's no arguing how valuable Deshaun Watson was to the Houston Texans. I even think in the Browns system, who consistently has failing quarterbacks, no matter who they draft year after year, I think Deshaun Watson could have been the guy traded for him. I don't know why no one started him at the beginning.
And you could look at it, same playing style is Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson. There's some guys out there.
There's a lot of
guys out there who fit that play style. I wonder what we'll see with the Cleveland Browns, who they'll take this season.
And you know they're going to get the number 1 pick again.
And most likely it's going to be a bust.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
All right, so now we're going to move on to Matt's 5 fast facts. Fact number 1, the team wearing white jerseys has won the Super Bowl 12 out of the past 13 seasons. Patriots will be wearing white.
That's what I like to see, yeah.
Number 2, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick have had more Super Bowl appearances, they've had 8, than 28 other teams in the NFL. Those other 2 teams being the Cowboys and the Steelers. Number 3, during preseason, the Patriots' odds to win the Super Bowl were 5-2. Surprisingly, though, the Eagles' odds to win were 40-1.
Surprising, actually. Carson wins, but
speaking of odds, there were the least. If you were to look at the odds placed on every team by actual bettors at the beginning of the year, there were the least amount of odds on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The least amount of people betted on them. And they obviously went to the
nobody thought that Andrew Luck and nobody thought Andrew Luck was going to go down.
No one even thought the Jaguars were going to go this far regardless.
Right. Bortles at quarterback. All right,
and then, number 4, Warriors are the first team in NBA history to have 4 All-Stars in consecutive seasons. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green. And number 5, LeBron James has become the youngest player in NBA history to reach 30,000 points.
You know he Instagrammed the day before the game congratulating himself.
Yeah,
He was
I
only
did see
he
that.
was 7 points.
I mean, I get he knew he was going to score, but I think it's kind of funny to be honest.
Yeah. I'd be worried about that. I'd be afraid I might jinx myself. Something could go wrong. You can't play the next game.
Now, would you agree that LeBron James? I'm not going to go into LeBron James versus Michael Jordan, but right now we look after Michael Jordan retired. He will be the best player from here on out.
I hate to say this because I love Kobe Bryant, but I think LeBron James is such a good professional player. And by that, I mean he just puts his head down, doesn't have a lot of drama besides the whole decision thing with Miami. He doesn't really have a lot of drama, keeps his head down, goes to work, is dominant. He's just such a physical force on the court. He's incredible. I think he's better than anyone in Michael Jordan's age in that era.
He got a coach fired. He got
David Blatt.
Yeah, he got David Blatt fired after he was the championship.
I mean, excuse me? No,
Go on.
Just let me finish. Let me finish. I'm just saying LeBron James is he's a force on the court. I think he's one of the best of all time.
He's the greatest athlete of all time for sure. I mean, this guy could go pro with basically.
He could play for the Cleveland Browns.
He'd be one of the best tight ends in the NFL.
I'd agree with that.
And with that, the Cleveland Cavaliers have made the news. They're talking about acquiring Sacramento guard George Hill. That could be big for them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the chemistry isn't there right now. They've been on a losing streak. Isaiah Thomas and LeBron aren't working together as well as they thought they would. Derrick Rose is not performing to where he obviously used to be or what he even tried to live up to this year. So, I mean, maybe a little change would be nice.
All right, and we got some more news. Jason Kidd fired by the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, it's 24-22, 7th in the Eastern Conference. I'm still going with the best coach in the NBA right now, Brad Stevens. And Zach and I think I agree on this one.
I do agree with that.
People talk about Steve Kerr, but he knows what he's doing. But when you're coaching,
anyone can coach that.
Four All-Stars. You don't have to do much. Luke Walton won with them. Mike Brown won with them. You really don't have to do much. Just sit back, watch, let them shoot.
Yeah, and the thing with Jason Kidd, I always thought he was a good coach, but you look at the Bucks and you look at the players on their team and the potential that they have, they should be a much better team. I think that they should be a 60-win team with this team, but they're not going to get there with Jason Kidd as their coach. It just won't happen.
A little bit more basketball news. What do we have?
All right, so Herb from San Antonio asked, will Kawhi Leonard be a San Antonio Spur next season? So Greg Popovich said, quote, nobody wants to come back more than Kawhi Leonard. I think I'm number 2. His teammates want him back. Everybody wants him back. He's a competitor.
I think he'll be in San Antonio next year.
Yeah. I mean, the city loves him. He's had a
That's where he
start
started
to his career here. Yeah.
I mean, before he was in San Antonio, nobody really knew who he was. He became Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio under Popovich. I think Popovich is a coach for him. He sat out a lot of the season due to injury. I can tell you this, as a competitor, he for sure hates every minute of it, but when he comes back, he's going to come back strong. And for the Spurs, he's going to be there for them.
Right. So, obviously, he's been plagued by injuries, it seems like year after year. So, the biggest thing you would think about here to answer this question is, do the Spurs want him? And obviously, based on what Popovich said and the rest of his teammates are thinking, they do want him back. And I really think that decision was more for them and not Kawhi's decision. So, as long as they want him back, and of course they do because of how good he is, I don't think he's going anywhere.
No, I agree with that. All right. We got new segment. Zach to Matt. What do we have?
Matt, as everybody watching knows, you're from LA, and you're also a big hockey fan. So, that means you're a fan of the LA Kings. So, my question to you is, why are they struggling so much, and how can they fix it?
All right. So recently, the past 8 games, the Kings are 1-7.
Struggling.
They're struggling a lot. They have a 2.13 goals per game average. Currently, the league average for the worst goals per game is the Buffalo Sabres. They have the worst average at 2.29. Obviously, that's terrible, but
That's bad.
it's very bad. Kings are doing very bad. The goals against average, they have 3.63 goals against average. New York Islanders have the worst goals against average with 3.63, so they're tying the worst average right now. Surprisingly, though, the Kings have the league's second best average, goals against average, with 2.50. So what I think needs to be done, and what I think the main issue is clearly everything's out of sync. Line changes need to be made. Besides the line with Iafallo, Brown, and Kopitar, they're doing great. They put up points against the Canucks, even though they just got blown out 6-2. Jeff Carter needs to return for the Kings. He was a great scorer for them. Obviously, they've missed him a lot this year. They've just been knocked out of the playoff race right now. But the main reason is goaltending. Darcy Kemper, the backup goalie, needs to take over for Jonathan Quick right now. Quick can't figure out what's going on. He needs time off. In 39 games, Jonathan Quick has had a 2.44 goals against average and a .921 save percentage, which those numbers aren't terrible. Like, those are good numbers, but for Quick, that's not going to cut it. In 2012, 2014, I think he was putting up a sub-2 goals against average, high, I think, .950 save percentage. He was doing very well. But in 12 games, Darcy Kemper has had a 2.12 goals against average and a .931 save percentage. Those are ridiculous numbers. He's clearly right now, he's a better goalie. Quick has, in the past, Quick has been performed better when he's had more rest. I think they need to start Kemper more, at least until Quick can figure out what his issues are. And then Kings should be back to their regular self.
All right, what do you have for Zach?
All right, Zach, I have to ask you, what do you think about Mitchell Trubisky's future in Chicago?
I think Mitchell Trubisky is the new face of Chicago, and I think that Mike Glennon is probably the worst signing, close to the worst signing in NFL history. He was not good at the beginning of the season, which no one thought he would be, except for the Bears front office. And Trubisky, I mean, he's been great. Obviously, we should have drafted Deshaun Watson over Trubisky.
That's what's up.
But I think Trubisky's going to have a great career. I think he's a very skilled quarterback. He knows the game very well. He needs to get a little bit smarter. He's learning every game, though. He's getting better. You saw him progress as the season went along. And I think that the Bears actually have a very good chance to make the playoffs next year, maybe as a wild card, because you got Trubisky, you got Jordan Howard coming off his second really good year. Hopefully get some receivers, probably get a receiver in the draft. And the defense is looking better every day. So I think that Trubisky is the new face of Chicago, and I think he has a bright future.
Now, the one thing with making him wild card, with Aaron Rodgers coming back.
That's why it's the wild card.
Right. And then you have Minnesota. If they're not the same team they are this year, like we were talking about, they could very well be in the wild card. We'll just have to see what Minnesota does. Because for sure, Green Bay, if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, they're going to be in the playoffs. It's just what Green Bay does.
There's no knock on Detroit either. I mean, Stafford has been great year after year, too, and the Lions are always a threat. So look for the NFC North.
And, they're possibly getting a new hire. They're talking with Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator from New England. So we'll see with Detroit. I mean, Patricia doesn't have to do much.
I forgot to mention the Bears' new head coach, Matt Nagy. I mean, from the Chiefs, he's going to be the new guy. He is an offensive-minded coach. He knows the quarterback position very well, and I think he's going to mentor Trubisky, and that's going to be great.
Right, you just have to see Trubisky excel, get better each game. The defense has to show up and support him in that run.
All right, Will, this is coming back to you. We want to know if you think Texas can make the NCAA tournament in March.
The only way Texas makes a tournament is if they go 500 in the Big 12. Big 12 is one of the best conferences.
Right, talked about before.
But they're off. Texas is off. They bounced back from West Virginia with a 73-57 win against Iowa State. They lost 86-51 to West Virginia.
Yeah.
20% from three-point range. I've said it from the very beginning. Stop shooting threes if you can't make them. If you're hot, shoot. Once you miss, time for some two-pointers, get some layups, throw it in the middle. Easy baskets. Enough with these going down the court, 2 seconds in, you take a three, switch possessions. You're wasting possessions away. Turnovers, there's a lot of Kerwin Roach is carrying the ball a lot. Can't turn the ball over. Stop shooting three-pointers. You're not going to make them. Shaka Smart needs to change something up a little bit. They're not the same team as they were against Duke and Gonzaga. They played those teams like a top 5 team.
They did.
And I'm not sure what's happened, but you lose Andrew Jones for the season. Mo Bamba's got to step up. The team as a whole has to step up, and they need to be smarter with the ball.
I'd say Mo Bamba stepped up. He's averaging a double-double every game. He's a Big 12 in rebounds and blocks per game.
You have to look at it as a leader.
As a team. Yeah,
you have to look at the whole right. he has to step up as not only, yes, he is a freshman, but he needs to step up as a leader. He's one of the top freshmen in the country.
That's true. Very
He
true.
needs to play like, yes, he's playing like it. We could say that. But he needs to distribute the ball out. Hey, I'm in the middle. Stop shooting threes. We're 1 of 9 from 3-point range. Probably not the best time to shoot. This isn't Kansas, where we make almost 50% from 3-point range. We're Texas basketball. We run plays, get inside, feed Dylan Ostakowski. Feed him. He's good from the free throw line in almost every single time. Eric Davis is good from the outside, but not every single time. He goes on some cold streaks. So, you gotta play your basketball, and they just haven't been doing it. And so that's what I think about that.
So I just want to kind of build off this a little bit. I like what you're talking about, Dylan Ostakowski. We've been to a couple games. We've seen him play live, and obviously the energy is there from him. He gets the crowd hype. You think his future with the with Longhorns? You think he's going to go to the draft? You think he should stay another year?
I think he'll stay another year, especially when you got Andrew Jones coming back. Great freshman coming up. He's shown a lot of potential from his time at Tulane, but he will. He needs to develop one more year.
And like you said, we need to stay 500 if we have any hopes of making the tournament. And we are currently at 500. Right now, looking at the rest of our schedule for the year, we have 10 more conference games. And obviously, like we said, a really good conference. So to go at least 500 in the rest of these games, it's going to be quite a task.
So we end the last game of the season, we play at home against West Virginia. Yes. That's going to be a tough one. Hopefully, it won't be a 30-point game.
Hopefully, it won't be a necessary win.
That is true, because that is unlikely, I hate to say the least. But the 2 games against Kansas State are going to be big for us.
We have 2 games against Oklahoma.
Right, but Oklahoma is a different species. Right. Kansas State is, if we can beat them at home and away, that's going to be a big conference clincher, I think. If we don't win at both of those games, I think we have a tougher time making the tournament, for sure.
And then you think it's a must-win? We play Ole Miss this Saturday, 1 p.m. Central Time. That's a
easy dub.
That's an easy dub. But if we lose that, what do you think happens?
Well, our non-conference record goes down.
But what do you? I mean, for the morale of the team, for the
especially
our reputation,
SEC-wise, I think that should be a moral booster, because SECs with A&M, you have Kentucky, you have a lot of good teams in the SEC. That should be a morale booster. I think they should win the game, of course, because it is at home.
Yeah.
Home field advantage in this case. We turn up.
Yeah, which is huge for Texas basketball.
Huge. When you look at it,
I believe we're 9-2 at home.
Right. We need to play like we do at home. And the only losses we've had at home are Kansas
and Michigan.
Right. 2 big losses. And with that, we're out of time. We will see y'all next week. Again, check out BazarSportsRadio.com. Send questions. Watch previous videos. Will Bazarski, Zach Dolan's Madahan. See you next week.
I don't know you're nice like this. Do you try on all your nights like this? Put some spotlight on the slide. Oh yeah.